If there's one question I get the most, it's how much do influencers cost? So in this video, I'm gonna break down exactly that. We're gonna go through all the variables that impact an influencer's rate on the market so you know exactly how much to pay influencers. And I'll give you a range of what you can expect to pay for individual influencers based on the size of the influencer's following. By the end of this video, you'll have a much better understanding of exactly how much an influencer should cost before you enter a partnership with them. And if you stay to the end of the video, I'll give you a link to a free cost calculator. And the calculator in just a few seconds can give you a specific rate for an individual influencer. Okay, so let's go through the variables that can impact an influencer's cost one by one. Now, the first variable that's the most important is the size of the influencer's audience. How many followers or subscribers do they have, depending if we're talking about YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. This is the most important because the reach of the influencer, how many people are actually going to see their content, is what we're essentially paying for. When it comes to their reach or their size of their audience, the categories are broken down into 5 basic groups. From smallest to largest, those groups are nano, micro, mid-tier, macro, and then mega or celebrity influencers. And you can think about nano as less than 10,000 followers. Micro is 10,000 to 50,000 followers. Mid-tier is 50,000 to 300,000. Macro is 300,000 to 1 million. And then mega or celebrity is anyone with over 1 million followers. And stick around to the end of the video and I'll give you a chart that breaks down by size category of influencer, what are the price ranges you can expect to pay for each social media platform, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So don't miss that. Okay, great. So what's the second variable that impacts an influencer's rate on the market? Well, the second most popular variable that's going to impact how much an influencer costs is going to be what's their primary content creation social media platform. In general, YouTube tends to be the most expensive, followed by Instagram and TikTok, if we're talking about just those big 3. Now, why is that? It's because YouTubers have to put a lot more time and effort into making their content. Obviously, you're making a 25-minute YouTube video. It takes a lot more time and effort from that content creator than it does to make a 15-second TikTok or an Instagram reel, for example. So the third variable that impacts an influencer's rate is going to be the type of content that you're asking them to produce on your behalf as part of the partnership. So what that can look like on 2 different sides of the spectrum could be static images over here, right? Just asking them to do a 1 picture on their Instagram, for example. But on the other side of the spectrum could be a very long, dedicated YouTube video. Obviously, there's a large gap here between how much effort is required for the influencer to create each of these. So they're going to charge a whole lot more for a dedicated YouTube video than they are for just a static image posted to their Instagram channel. Now you have tons of content in between there as well. You have Instagram stories and Instagram reels. You have TikTok videos that can vary in length up to 60 seconds. Even on the YouTube side, not everything needs to be a dedicated video. You also have what we call integrations or mentions, they're also called, where you can have an influencer mention your brand, mention your products for 10, 15, 20 seconds. You could also get a short little integration where they speak for 1 minute or 2 minutes in the middle of their YouTube video, where the whole video might be 30 minutes, but they're spending that little integration time talking about your brand and your products. So there's so many options out there in content types for partnering with influencers, and each different type of content is going to be very impactful on how much the influencer charges for that partnership. So the fourth variable that impacts an influencer's rate is going to be engagement. Engagement means how much is the influencer's audience participating and interacting with that influencer's content on average. This can come in the form of likes, comments, saves, and shares on the influencer's individual content, whether that's images or videos. Now, why does that matter? Well, as a brand, you want to make sure that whatever the influencer puts out as far as a collaboration with you, that their audience is actually going to interact with it. So looking at an influencer's engagement rate metrics gives you an idea of how much the audience is going to actually see your content and engage with your content when the influencer posts it. Now, there's some other factors to keep in mind here, right? There are some generalities like certain niches and certain audiences on average engage more or less. So there's no one right answer when it comes to like what is the perfect engagement rate. But in general, know that as the engagement rate goes up on an individual influencer's social metrics, they are going to charge more to you as the brand for a potential partnership. Okay, number 5, let's talk about the influencer's experience. How long they've been a content creator. Additionally, like their reputation and their demand on the market. All those things factor into how much they're going to charge. And a lot of them are niche specific as well. For example, you can have an influencer on Instagram that has only 200,000 followers. And I'm saying only, but that's a lot. But that would be a mid-tier influencer compared to a YouTuber that in another lifestyle niche that maybe has 1 million plus subscribers. And that Instagram influencer may actually charge more and be worth more on the market compared to the YouTube influencer who could have 5 times the size of the reach. So how is that possible? Well, it's because that the niche of that Instagram influencer is in higher demand. That person has been around for a long time. They could have a very, very specific niche, meaning there's all the companies and all the brands in that niche are all approaching that person for partnerships. So they could be the most influential person in their niche on social media with only 200,000 followers. That happens all the time. Versus the person who has 1 million subscribers over here on YouTube, they could be a very generic niche, like lifestyle fashion, for example, where there's all kinds of YouTubers that have millions of followers in that niche. So demand for this person on YouTube is actually lower, even though their social metrics look bigger and more impressive. So these things need to be considered when you're partnering with a potential influencer. Okay, number 6 now, we're starting to get into the category of things that are not as widely known about influencer marketing. And that is usage rights, meaning how are you going to use the influencer's content after you partner with them in other marketing that you're doing? For example, if they make a Instagram reel for you about your brand and your products, are you going to post that to your brand's Instagram channel? Are you going to take that Instagram reel and run it as ads in your other campaigns? Maybe you're going to post it on your website. This is known as content usage. And just like a professional videographer or photographer, influencers charge more based on how you're going to use that right to their content after the partnership and for the duration of time as well. Let me give you an example. So if you partner with an influencer and you have them make an Instagram reel, and then you might say, hey, give me 6 months of content usage rights to that reel after they make the post, meaning that you can use it in your ads, you can use it on your website for a period of 6 months. And the influencer will usually charge a flat rate or a monthly rate for each of those 6 months after the partnership. So usually 6 months is a good time to shoot for as a brand when you're partnering with an influencer. And here's why. You don't want to buy perpetual or forever rights to their content because social media content goes stale over time. You're going to want to refresh your influencer partnerships. You're going to have more posts in the future. So you probably won't use that Instagram reel for more than 6 months. And if you do, you can always go back to the influencer and renew the licensing. It's not set in stone. So I always recommend go with 6 months of licensing rights to start. If you need more, you can always circle back with the influencer and buy a few more, 6 months, a year, or whatever. Influencers are usually pretty good with negotiating with brands after the fact because they want future partnerships with you. Now, why would you want content rights at all? Well, you're going to want them because usually influencer content outperforms traditional brand created content in things like social media advertising by 50% or more on average. So it's in your best interest to actually get licensing rights to the content when you partner with influencers. Now, the licensing is not just about the content usage. There's also the influencer's name and likeness, and that's actually separate. So you can approach the influencer and say, hey, I just want to use your content in ads. I'm not going to talk about you as a person. I'm not going to use your name when I advertise for my brand. Or you can throw in the name and likeness as well into your influencer agreements. Meaning if you have a larger influencer with a lot of reputation in your specific niche, you're going to want that name and likeness right to advertise long term, right? You're going to want to leverage the influencer's authority in that space to promote your brand and your products when you do things like advertise. Okay, and last but not least, exclusivity. What does that mean? That means that when you partner with an influencer, if you ask them to be exclusive to your brand and your products, then they can't take deals from other brands and other products that approach them during that exclusivity period. So what does that look like? That could look like, for example, you're going to have an exclusivity of 1 month in your influencer agreement. And it could be 1 month after the post date, most likely. What that looks like is the influencer would post to Instagram. They would share their reel, for example. They would talk about your products or mention your brand. And then for 1 month after that post goes live, they couldn't take on any partnerships and make any posts with any of your competitors. Now, this is a very expensive piece of an influencer partnership because what you're essentially doing when you ask an influencer to be exclusive to your brand is that you're buying out all the opportunities they have to work with your competitors. So expect, if you ask for exclusivity of a very long time period, for the influencers to charge quite a bit more on top of their base rate to give you that option. Now, what should you go for in general? Usually 24 hours at a minimum, maybe a week. You can get an exclusive deal for most influencers without any extra charge. Once you start going a lot longer than that, especially longer than a month, influencers are really going to start tacking on extra rates, sometimes as much as 2 or 3 times the amount of the original partnership or more, because again, they are essentially turning down all these other offers for work to dedicate everything they're doing to you and your brand. Great, so that wraps up all the major variables that impact an influencer's rate. Now, earlier in the video, I did say that I was gonna share the approximate pay range of influencers based on the size of their following. So the chart that I'm gonna put up right now shows nano, mid-tier, mega influencers, and everything in between, and exactly the low and high-end ranges of what you can expect to pay for each of those following or reach sizes of their audience. Now, again, there's all the variables we just went through can impact this, but in general, you should expect to be somewhere within these price ranges based on these influencer sizes when you're approaching influencers with an offer for partnership. So screenshot this, save it for future reference, use it in your negotiations with influencers, and then I promise I would give a free link to an exact influencer value calculator. Now, this is a free tool. We created this tool from scratch based on 7 years of experience in the influencer marketing space, doing hundreds of different campaigns in influencer marketing with all kinds of different consumer brands across Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. So check out the link to this calculator. I'm going to put it right here in the video, and you can use this calculator when you're negotiating with influencers to get a much more specific price to offer those influencers in your negotiations. So guys, influencer marketing can be this awesome, powerful tool in growing your business. And having watched this video, you guys have made the first step in making influencer marketing work for you, because now you understand how influencers charge. And this is a brand new channel. So if you got value out of this video today, please give it a thumbs up, share it. It would help me tremendously. And I'll be putting out a bunch more videos just like the one today, all designed to help you with influencer marketing. So don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.